Mrs. Nzego, we can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies. My name is Ngozi Nzego.
Good afternoon.
And I am the chair of the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee. I am also a WIMBoard fellow and the CEO of Dugo Limited. On behalf of WIMBIZ WIMBoard leadership, I want to warmly welcome all of you to a landmark event, because this is the first time that we're having a WIMBoard mentoring induction. I am super excited that we have our mentors today, the WIMBoard mentors who are going to talk to us. But I'm even more excited that there are over 60 women who are the mentees, who registered from across the globe. We have people that registered from the US, from Canada, and from different parts of Nigeria. About 5 months ago, to be precise, I was asked to chair the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee. And at the core, or at the center of our assignment as a committee, is to identify the core needs of senior female executives, those who desire to be on boards and provide solutions to their most pressing board needs. By engaging experts with immense board experience to mentor them. It was Victor Hugo who said, "Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come." So we went to work. And I was particularly careful about the selection of the committee members, because I wanted people that will be available apart from coming from diverse background. And I was blessed to have, committee members who were very committed and dedicated. And we went to work. We started the brainstorming sessions and strategy sessions. And from those sessions, we came up with what we call the thought generators. So why do we want to have a mentoring program for, WIMBoard mentoring program for women? The answer is simple. In spite of the fact that women constitute in the workforce majority of very competent and capable hands, apart from the banking sector where you have about 30% of women on boards, thanks to Sanusi, the former governor of CBN. We found out that in quoted companies, you just have about 21% thereabout, and it is not for lack of seeing competent women. So we felt that there is a compelling reason to do something intentionally. And the next question, the next thought generator is, who are we mentoring? We are mentoring women who are already on boards and they want more capacity, they want to be more impactful, they want to network with the best mentors, those that we are calling the boardroom gurus. Who else do we want to mentor? We are looking at those women who are at the middle or senior executive level in organizations, and who we call the pipeline. In our deliberation, we call them the pipeline, because we don't want them to disappear in the pipe. And we felt that there should be a mentoring program to make sure that they're strategically positioned, so that when the time comes for executive management positions, they won't be lacking, or they will not be looked for. I can identify with that coming from the banking industry myself. And I am also happy that I can see some of the women that during my advocacy visit as the vice chair of the advocacy committee last year that we visited, I can see that some of them are in this program, which means that the implementation and their recommendation will be is already working. Then there are women who are entrepreneurs running billions of naira business, but they don't have any functional or well-structured boards. And they need to, be mentored to put in place structures. Then the next thought generator is, what value are we adding and how will we add the value? And that is where value proposition, what are we going to do to make sure that people see value? And that made us look at the content that we are delivering. And the how is part of the reason why we're here today. We felt that it will not be like a classroom setup, that we need to have a curriculum or put in place what I call a cocktail or hybrid of programs that will engage, that will add value, that will be practical, that will we get people that we share their experiences with no holds barred. And we want to work and we put in place a robust curriculum for the WIMBoard program over a period of time starting from today. Then how will WIMBoard be sustainable? And that is the reason why we felt that if we are giving you value, then you have to pay for the value. And that is the only way it can be sustainable. Who will be the mentors? And we put in place boardroom gurus, men and women for diversity, who have experience, who have competence, who have ethical background. And we're happy that we have a pool, over 45 mentors that we have put in place. And then how will we mentor? And how we will mentor is part of the reason why we're here today as well. And who will be the mentors? I've answered that question. And I can say that from what we have put together, we decided to ask ourselves, how will we measure success? At the end of it all, what will be success to us? We want to see about 50% increment on women representation on boards in the next 5 years. We want to be able to see more women set up businesses that have good structure, good corporate governance that will be attractive for people to want to join their boards. We also want to see our pipeline translate to equity management and on to boards. And the answers to these questions are encapsulated in the guiding framework that we developed, which I just shared with you. I must say that I am blessed to have women of diverse experience who are working with me. And that what we have put together, the question of how is encapsulated in what you can see in front of you. We have a rich and varied curriculum. We have an amazing pool of boardroom gurus, over 61 accomplished mentees. And of course, you know that the WIMBIZ brand is very attractive. So WIMBIZ has looked into their database to profile the best who are going to be the women that will be the WIMBoard mentors in the next 3 months. I must say that in looking at what we have done in a very short period of time, I can say that the profile of the mentors, the profile of the mentees, when a collection of very talented people, when a collection of people who have the competence and expertise come together, we're expecting a masterpiece. And I want to say thank you very much once more to both the mentors and the mentees. And this is just the beginning of wonderful programs that we plan to roll out in the future. Thank you, everyone.
So good evening, everybody. All our mentees, we congratulate you. A lot of you have been communicating with me all week. In fact, I've harassed a lot of our mentees. So officially, we want to congratulate you. The day has come. A lot of assignments, a lot of back and forth, a lot of submissions, and now is the D-Day. I use this opportunity on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Executive Council to commend and congratulate every member of everybody that is in this set, the pioneer set of mentees, our WIMBoard mentees. I just want to quickly give an overview of the entire program for the next 3 months, and to also let our mentees know what some of our expectations are. The committee has worked tirelessly, and I also want to appreciate Mrs. Nzegu and the team. So first of all, our mentees, today is your day. It's all about you. Once we finish our orientation today, it's important for us to now get our hands really into the dirt and ensure that we graduate in January collectively together. As you know, WIMBIZ started about 19 years ago by 13 women and 1 man. And it, ironically, as we always say, it was the idea of the man. The Board of Trustees, who are the founders of WIMBIZ, have run the organization for 19 years now and have raised others in form of the Executive Council. And what we have done over the years is that we have grown because we have our programs that advocate. And one of the programs that advocate is the Women on Boards program. The Women on Boards program has about 4 elements to it. The WIMBoard Institute focused on training. The WIMBoard database is there to sort of populate the women that are board ready to be recommended. Then we also have the WIMBoard mentoring, which you are the first set of mentees for, even though we have had some group mentoring sessions in the past. And then we have the advocacy aspect of WIMBoard. Having said that, in 2012, usually we have our board chairs. I know Mrs. Idigbe started the institute. We had Mrs. Roberts, who took over from her, that built some of the structures of the WIMBoard Institute and set up the committees. And now under Mrs. Igodalo's tenure, we have decided to take the mentoring session very seriously. Now, over the next 3 months, October is all about group mentoring and peer-to-peer mentoring. And the calendar was shared with all of us for the next 2 Saturdays, this Saturday, the next one, and then we have a space in between, and the one on the 24th, we will be having our group mentoring sessions. We have divided you into teams already, your board teams. That will give you an opportunity, not just for networking, but for peer-to-peer mentoring and assignments. Now, after October, as we step into November, by the end of October, you will all know who your mentors are. Now, because your mentors are board mentors, most of them are very busy. And so what we are doing is that we're dedicating the month of November for one-on-one mentoring. And the way that will be structured will be based on your discussion directly with your mentor. They will determine what structure will work for them and how often you will get to interact together. After that, we will give you a break in December, obviously, because the year is rounding up and a lot of you will be engaged in your end of year activities. Now in January, when we resume, we're going to have the board simulation session. And that what will happen in that regard is that all of you, your teams will be structured in such a way that the mentors will have some mentors that will come in and serve as chairman of your board. The rest of you will be board members. You will have a full board meeting. And after the meeting, they will be able to give you feedback on what went well, areas you can improve on based on their experiences in the boardroom. So you will have a practical experience with them. As we conclude in January with your graduation, we will have a real boardroom guru that will come and guide you on creating a lasting legacy. It's going to be an intensive 3-month journey, but it's going to be one that is worthwhile. As I have said to all of you on the group, you never know. those people that are in your set now can be anywhere in a few years to come. So make sure you don't joke with networking. Once again, on behalf of our board and our executive council, I use this opportunity to congratulate our members. Congratulations to the first and pioneer set of our WIMBoard mentoring team. And we will use the next few seconds just to celebrate you in our own little way. So congratulations once again.
I'm a star. Black African diva bizarre. Us women, we're shining like stars. Start from the bottom and rise from the top. You're wonderful, loving, and strong. Nothing is stronger than a woman's worth. I'm the piece of the puzzle that's missing, baby. I compete in the earth. Call me Sheba, but just come and marry my Keba. See, we run the world. Show some love to a strong girl.
I think at this time, we'll just clap for all of you. Congratulations once again. We really do wish you a successful mentoring tenure. And I'm going to hand over now to Mrs. Adedoyin Odunfa to introduce our first speaker. Congratulations, my ladies.
Hello, I welcome you once again to this landmark initiative, the very first edition of the WIMBIZ Women on Boards Mentoring Induction Program. My name is Adedoyin Odunfa. Adedoyin Odunfa. I'm privileged to be the Vice Chair of the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee and thrilled to be your moderator for today's program. I am the CEO of Digital Jewels and I'm also a WIMBoard Fellow. The stage has been excellently set by Ngozi's opening remarks and Hansatu's program overview. Thank you to Ngozi, Chair of the WIMBoard Mentoring Program. Thank you, Hansatu, Executive Director, WIMBIZ. We now proceed to the second part of this value-packed program, during which we will present two of our mentors, each a thoroughbred professional and professional guru and boardroom guru, to address critical aspects of board readiness and board effectiveness. Each mentor will speak for about 15-20 minutes, and then we will have a fully interactive session of questions and contributions to engage with the mentor for 40 minutes, and a final conclusion by the mentor thereafter. If you have questions and comments during the interactive session, you may indicate in one of two ways, either by raising your hand on the Zoom platform, by clicking the raise hand icon by your names to prompt the platform administrator to unmute after being selected to ask your question. Please keep your question brief and to the point, so allow others the opportunity for their own contributions. Alternatively, you may wish to type your question in the Q&A box. Again, keep it brief and to the point. We will now proceed quickly to the first mentoring session for today, addressing the pertinent issue of building a board-ready profile, a profile that speaks to readiness to operate effectively in the boardroom, which would therefore attract interest for board opportunities. To address this topic will be Mrs. Olufunke Osibodu, a Nigerian banker who previously led EcoBank and Union Bank of Nigeria, a Nigerian banker who previously led EcoBank Nigeria and Union Bank of Nigeria. She was the CEO and later a director of the holding company of EcoBank Nigeria until she left in 2006. She came to notice in August 2009 when there was a shake-up in the Nigerian banking sector, when 5 bank CEOs were dismissed and 5 replacements were named by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mrs. Osibodu was praised for the transparency and discipline that she introduced at the Union Bank of Nigeria. She was placed at position 47 on a list of the world's most powerful businesswomen by the Financial Times in 2011. She was the only African woman to make that list. She stood down from her position as CEO of Union Bank at the end of 2012. After she left the bank, she moved into the power industry as a CEO of the Benin Electricity Distribution Company for Benin City. Join me to welcome our first mentor for today's landmark program, Mrs. Funke Osibodu. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. And let me say, I'm very pleased to be part of this program. And when I see the long list, I can see 85 participants here. It shows the seriousness and the interest that WIMBIZ has succeeded in doing, in galvanizing a lot of ladies to start being more structured, and kudos to WIMBIZ from that perspective. A couple of years ago, you now started the board process, and I'm aware that there are quite a number of members of WIMBIZ that have gotten board opportunities through this organization. So as I was listening to the program, that it's a 3 months intensive program, I smiled. I said, back to school. And a 3 months program that at the end of the day, you now display what you have learned in a boardroom. I hope you intend to make that boardroom truly real, showing all the different intricacies that sometimes happen in boardrooms, and as much as possible, make sure that it is not a boardroom that is completely sane. Let it have some fun in the process, because often that happens in various organizations. I also looked at the list, and very rich and interesting list spanning across people from various large organizations, people who are self-employed, and executives, owners in their own rights, those who are already even part of boards, and I assume they just want to enhance their skills by being part of this process. And like was said, some of the middle senior management members here who want to be part of the process. So having said that, what I then did based on what, when I was invited, was to do just a 10-page slide, I think, just to set the tone. I don't think I'll use up to the 20 minutes, I hope not. I will try to be as brief as possible, because I believe the interactive session is more important than the lecture. There's nothing new that you can lecture about, to be frank. And in today's age of open source of so many things, you go online, you find so many things that you can teach yourself without anybody talking about it. So this is just gathering a few thoughts just to get us going. And then from there on, we open up to the interactive session. So if you want to share my screen, or I should go ahead and share it from my own side. I don't know if you already have it. Can you share my presentation? Can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Presentation will be shared.
Okay. I can always share it myself as well.
Perhaps you should go ahead, because I'm not sure why the delay. Please go ahead and share. Thank you.
Okay. Just a moment, I want to turn it to full screen. I need to escape. Well, this is where technology comes in, trying to remove a list of parties so as to allow for my full screen. I think because we have a long list of parties being streamed.
Hello, ma'am. You can share your slide with me. Can I have your slide, ma'am?
Pardon?
Can I have your slides, ma'am?
You want? I've sent it. Some of this thing is disturbing me proceeding with my full screen. The list of parties that I'm seeing here, and that's what is disturbing me, seeing the icon for the full screen. Okay, let me just try and pick up the slideshow icon. Fine. Can you see it now? Can we see it fully?
Yes,
okay.
yes, ma'am.
All right. So basically what I've tried to do is to, in the first slide, bring out some aspects that we all know about, but which to a large extent, people sometimes call it a myth, but sometimes it is seen as a reality. And the first bit about it is board game is a men's club. And I think I heard Ngozi highlighting the fact that there were not enough people on boards of most institutions. And over time, in spite of the ratio of women that we have within the country, why is that happening? And I will talk about that briefly. And because it's a men's club, that's another myth. You can't win by trying to be one of the men or one of the boys. So you might as well not bother yourself. There are those who have that belief, and through that process, they slow themselves down. There's the other aspect, which we all know, all of us. Women are very busy in the early years, raising families, and therefore multitasking on so many things that concentrating on the job and the career is not as easy. And so slower career growth means that they are not available to be ready for board positions. That bit also is an important thing we should all note and be ready as we grow in the ground to put that in mind. I would say for me personally, I felt it all the way, and it takes a lot of will to balance and juggle all together. And in that process, you just have to make some sacrifices so that if you are that ambitious, those sacrifices can pay off later on. I tell people hard work cannot kill you, and juggling around with so many things at the same time just improves your organizational skills. So women spend more than twice the effort and time to get a board seat. However, if we do get on board, our value automatically doubles. And sometimes you get on the board seats out of tokenism. Okay, let's you more them, and let's have a woman there. And for one of us that gets on that board for that purpose, we also should note that we have a role to play. And that role is very important, because that role is setting the tone for the others who are coming behind us. And it depends on how we portray ourselves on the board. So, but for most boards, what they have found out is that bringing women on boards is good business. In other words, there's value that comes from it. And like they say, we think differently from men. And very often you bring in different perspectives and the whole system is very robust. Am I the one sharing or you are the one sharing? Because I'm not able to, okay, yeah. So how do we fit as women into boards? Now moving on to the profiling side. We've got to understand it's not about, I know what I'm doing. It is about matching the various parties to have a symmetric process. There must be chemistry that is positive, that glues the board together and creates what we call the corporate governance. That corporate governance at the board level determines the success of the company. I'm sure a lot of us have, where if you have a board where everybody is fighting each other, it affects the organization. Where everybody doesn't trust each other, it affects the management. So the corporate governance at the board level and the chemistry at the board level is very important. And that's the reason why for those who are the principal parties that look for board members or look for parties they want to attract to their board, one of the things they do first of all is to look at people they prefer, preferences, their personal preferences come in. And very often they look for the behavioral fit. You must have the emotional intelligence that they're in terms of, I hope this lady or this man won't come in and the chemistry will now become different. Mostly they shop around people that they have established relationships with. And the reason is very simple. They indirectly have a feel for you, or they use people that they trust to shop around for them because they believe those parties can and do understand what is expected. But in all this, your attitude matters, and people will always look out for the attitude of the person. And that attitude helps a lot in the cold invitations that people sometimes get. I think Ngozi earlier said, you never know some of us, some of the people here where they will be later on, and how they will remember one of us here and say, hey, so person that I had an interaction with, I think she can be good for my board. So those are the parts of the attitudes and the interaction that makes a difference, make a difference. And finally, very important, the candidates must fit the value system of that organization. That value system is so important in setting the tone. Different organizations have their values, and those values are very, very important to them. And making sure that those values are what they use to fit the system, and right from the top is also key. So how do we start building the competencies? The first and most important, which a lot of people underestimate, but so important, is to be professionally exceptional. If I take myself as an individual and I look back, when I was doing various things that I did, I wasn't doing them out of looking for a board seat. But those things that I did helped to attract people who wanted me to be part of their system. Very early in the game, starting from what I would say our own family board, I started having some form of tutelage. But that wasn't my real tutelage. It was working in Citibank at the very early stage of my career. And I can see some of my colleagues, at least I can see one of them here, Hetty, that made a difference in what I would call exposure. for me and starting the grooming professionally. So very important is that selfless process of working hard with the right attitude, being creative. And there are lots of things we introduced in the banking sector using that creativity from my various banking days. Being a doctor, communicating well, sometimes taking the risks, very often taking risks. And I can tell you so many things about the risk I've taken in life. Some work out, some don't. But doing nothing is not an option. Having strong interpersonal skills, and they come in handy, both at your level in terms of colleagues, at level of people who are senior to you, and they are watching you, you don't know, and even those who are coming behind. In addition, numbers, the world is about numbers. Understanding numbers is very important. In other words, the statistical skills necessary to help us to be successful. And finally, beyond those statistical skills, knowing what to do, when to do such things, and in the right way. So at the early stage of my career and where I started from made a lot of difference in helping me on some of the things that has helped me to be part of board process. That experience, I always tell people, you cannot buy it with money. And I use the adage that you get paid in two currencies, experience or cash. Very rarely will you have both. But in life, if you choose to take experience, your journey towards board position is better assured. And experience, you can always cash in, and people can help you to cash in on it. But cash cannot never buy you that experience and buy you those seats. So experience and being professionally groomed, well groomed, gives you the confidence and makes a lot of difference. Having said that, you've got to know yourself. What am I good at? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities around me? And what are the threats that I see in the environment that can disturb me? In other words, being truthful to yourself to know what is going on and sensitive to your environment. So, WIMBIZ is about networking. So I don't think I need to preach much on networking. But if you want to be a board group, networking. And in the early days, again, of my professional life, I did not realize that it was networking we were doing. You look back and see it as networking. If you're a marketing guy and you have to go to your customers and AGM, you are going more from stand up to be counted, not because you like that assignment, but networking. So professional networking exposes you to people. You go out for functions, cocktail, 2-3 hours, standing on your feet, carrying glasses, drinks, smiling. Sometimes that smile is not necessarily a genuine smile. I just have to be here. I just have to be politically correct, and you do all that. But that professional networking indirectly over time makes people to know you. I remember some of the professional networking that has helped me when I was working in a French affiliated company. That was MBC, Merchant Banking Corporation. And the French organization that they belong to. We will normally meet, and when we meet, you drink wine, you talk, nothing major, and you go away. But over time, you become friends. When there are opportunities, they remember you. Your business network is very important. That is right. The professional one, associations, etc., that you belong to. Your business one is relating to the job you do. Your social network. We ladies are social animals. And sometimes they think you are just doing social, okay, you are just going partying. It's a network. And somewhere there in the process of networking within yourselves, somebody wants to do something serious, says, oh, that's my person. Family network matters. Sometimes it's referrals from family members to their friends that gives you that job. Your corporate function, there's a network somewhere there, find it. It's not about trying to consciously say, I'm looking for a network, and so I must be part of this. But just be emotionally savvy and be serious about making sure that you mix and mingle. Contribute to professional conversation. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to even say something stupid. When you are stupid the first time, you will know you were stupid the first time. After that, you get more serious. Volunteer for public outings and speaking. You know what that does to you? Even this one I'm doing, it forces you to do a little bit of research. It forces you to prepare so that you will not, in quote, look stupid. And it creates that process of building knowledge and confidence in each person. One volunteer work that has been very, very good for me in my networking is in Citibank. And when NESG was being formed as Nigerian Economic Summit Group, I was one of the foundation members. Not because I was of anybody of importance, because most of the people there were senior, very accomplished people. But they needed their stenographer or somebody that will be doing all the writing and secretarial work and doing this thing. And my organization, Citibank, threw me and said, Funke, go and represent us there. And I've been one of the youngest, if not the youngest at that time. You had no choice but to say, okay, Funke, have you noted this? For every information that was passing around and you were going around with those accomplished parties, a panelist, speaker, became director in NESG, became vice chairman of NESG, was part of the first visioning group, Vision 2010, the 200 or so parties that the government put together, purely from that one network. So it just tells you about the importance of networking and the importance of volunteering and the importance of being ready to sacrifice and being part of a process. I'm not saying what's in it for me. So when you want to commence planning for your board, you have to look at what type of board do you want to be part of, join. And I saw, if I look at this list, a diverse number of people. And there are those who are looking at for-profit making board. There are those who are part of not-for-profit making board. There are those who are, I want to be an executive director, executive board, or managing director. That's, you're an executive. There are those who say, I want to be independent directors or non-executive director. There's a difference between independent and non-executive. So what type of board membership are you as a person looking at? That affects so many things you look at and so many things you want to do. It affects the needs to practice and come up with your profile. And in coming up with your profile, the way you write your resume for a board is different from the way you write your CV or resume for an application. Often for a board process, if somebody says, bring your CV, I want to submit it somewhere for a board position. You want to put up front things that are relevant for that position. When we're writing a resume for a normal employment application, you start with your educational experience, etc. Those ones are not what they are looking for because they've assumed it. So you typically will start with your leadership and industry experience, your corporate experience, your community involvement and volunteer work, your financial leadership, if you have any information, your board experiences, if there's any such, your educational experience, especially when we look at educational and professional experience, and then affiliations and associations that you are part of. So having done that, make sure that if you put your CV together, you want to make sure that that CV is rich enough and same across the board. In this age of so many information about you coming out, make sure that your LinkedIn, your website, your Twitters, anything, Facebook, anywhere that your information is, you've updated it. Because if you haven't, there can be conflicting information on you, and through that conflicting information, people do not realize that they are picking wrong information on you. And regularly, it's good for you to go online and check what information is there about you. It's always good to start small. If you have no experience, volunteer to be on the board of even your friend's company. That is nothing. But the fact that you all gather together to try and have a structured process, you start gaining the experience. So don't wait for the big board. It is the experience that matters, whether big or small. Volunteer for not-for-profit boards, because those ones always look for people that will come and help. But again, it is experience that you are gaining. And of course, other volunteer type of boards. I've been part of boards where there are no sitting allowance, no board fees, nothing. But it is the interest and the passion. And over time, you gain a lot of experience. So sometimes you have to be part of an interview. And in being part of an interview, it means then that we have to be prepared for that interview. So you must understand the company. Do your due diligence. It's not every board that you want to be part of, but if you are going for that interview, because sometimes, especially if you are going for independent directorship where people want to ask questions to determine whether this is the right person, be prepared. Know about the company. Nothing is as terrible as giving it wrong information about a company that you say you want to be on the board of. So you know about the company, you know who you are meeting, you know what the company is going through. In other words, do your research, check a lot of information on the company, online, etc. Often those who are interviewing you, when they know you are knowledgeable about them, they say this person is interested in us. What is the financial situation? And management, especially the CEO, is very, very important. The MD, even if the other members of the board, including the chairman, are interested in you, if management does not want you, they have their way of making sure they influence it. So you must know who is management or who is the MD. Dress code is very important, to know the dress code of that organization. So you are now not going there and they are all looking at you and saying, what is this? Even though if you are the most competent, the way you are dressed, you just look at it and say, not appearance matters. And I'm sure more of that and branding, you will hear about it later. And prepare your pitch why you are interested in the company. Show all the enthusiasm and be very engaging and inquisitive. So my last few slides, what do interviewers, whoever is interviewing you, want to know? They just want to check, can this person do the job and fits with us? Is the chemistry right? Will I love this job they want to give to me? And will the person be regular or somebody I'll bring on board and today will come, tomorrow won't come? So they are sizing you up just like you are sizing them up. Is that chemistry right? And is this person a big picture person? You know, boards are about big picture. Management is about smaller picture. And sometimes the problem is we find it difficult to transit from small to big. So they are talking about the general things and you are just interested in, no, but this 1+1 is not equal to 2. And there, you've got to be able to see the larger picture and how it can fit into the smaller picture. So that big picture is important. You also want to ask questions, and typically there are some questions you will ask. Who is the owner? Who is really the owner of this company? Not that you will ask like that. You will find out through the back door so that you know what you are getting yourself into, whether it is what you want to get yourself into. Is the board committed to diversity, especially gender diversity? Am I just a token representation? And there's nothing wrong with tokenism. Okay, it's fashionable to have ladies. Okay, let's bring her in. And they expect nothing from you. That's one of the best boards to go into. Because when you perform, because they never expected you to have anything serious in your head, they overrate you. And they over promote you to everybody and say, we have one of the best people on board. And from there on, your networking and even your ability to serve on other boards is enhanced. So there's nothing wrong with, okay, they say we should have ladies, let's have it. Let's have the lady. But when you know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. What does that board have as a vision for its company, for the company, and what is their financial position? These are the few highlights that I've brought up just to bring out the importance of being structured in our approach. But having said that, let's note that those highlights are not as important as our journey in a professional way, in a serious way, and our attitude to network. So having said this, I think we should move straight to opening up for us to interact. I hope my few slides have been useful.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Osibodu, for that very crisp and very clear presentation, lending light onto this very important topic of building a board-ready profile. It was packed with so many fascinating nuggets. I'm sure that the mentees were taking notes, just like I was, and we'll have several questions to unpack the highlights that you have shared with us. The presentation touched on trying to strike that balance between corporate governance and chemistry, the need to be emotionally intelligent, the importance of attitudes, and knowing the value system of boards. placed a lot of emphasis on competence building, the need to stand out professionally, to be professionally exceptional, because it's your experience and your expertise that will count the most, to have the right attitudes, the right skill sets, and to be true to yourself. Choose experience over cash. I thought that was invaluable. You can cash in on experience, but cash can't buy experience. She talked about the starting point being to build competence and to build your brand intentionally, build your networks in varied ways. She talks about the board planning process, being clear about what type of boards you want to join, to write your profile in an effective way, and should not despise tokenism. It may be indeed a golden opportunity. At this point, we'll open up the platform for questions from the mentees. As I said earlier on, in case you missed it, if you have questions or comments during this interactive session, you may indicate in one of two ways, either by raising your hand on the platform, and once you're selected, you'll be unmuted to ask your questions, or by typing your questions in the Q&A box. Please keep your questions short and to the point when you do so. So the platform is open for questions and answers. Please, let's speak up, let's ask our questions, let's make it very interactive and very rich.
Are you handling it or I should be handling it?
What do you prefer? I can't see the hands up yet.
I've seen about 4 hands up. I think Keke was the first one, or Kaima. I've seen about 4 names so far. And then Buki, Shadi, Tari. So maybe if we take it like 4 at a time.
A batch of 4. Yes.
And then, or a batch of 2. Let's start with 2 first, so that before we forget.
Okay.
Between. So,
strangely, I can't see the hands up.
You can go ahead. You've unmuted yourself, Keke.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Mrs. Osibodu, and everyone on the call. I want to start, first of all, by saying thank you for an excellent presentation, and I'm just going to go straight to the point. It's more of a comment and then the question at the end. So the advice to actually update all our social media platforms, it's very, very key. But what I wanted to ask is, if one wanted to focus on it, which would be the most critical one to do? Would it be LinkedIn? Because that's usually the professional site one goes in as much as one is focusing on all the others. And then in as much as the board interview, one is the board interview, they're interested in one having, presenting the big picture. If there's something that really is critical, how best does one address that without seeming to be myopic in one's thinking during the interview process? Thank you. And just to say, it was a pleasure working with you at Citibank.
Thank you. Okay, so Buki, no, I've lost. I think Buki is the next one.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Osibodu, for that quite enlightening and eye-opening talk. My question is very brief. I understand what you were trying to explain to us about when the opportunity looks like a tokenism one. I want to find out how do you know the difference when the offer of a board is a standard or regular one and when it is just tokenism? Not that one should prepare for less, but then just to know the difference and know how to approach it strategically. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so I think Keke, you started with the social media being very important. I agree completely. But sometimes we over celebrate the importance, and sometimes we build brands with no depth in terms of our own side of the content. At some point it comes to haunt us, because I've seen situation. Let me give you a small one. My son was in school. He had just entered university abroad in US. And this young man came back and I saw his CV. I will hire him by that CV and give him a fantastic position. His first year, he hasn't even spent 1 year. All they have just done in the university is to tell them how to write a beautiful CV that anybody reading it will say, this is my man. Sometimes also on the social media, such branding takes place that we forget that branding without substance, sooner or later will fall flat. So we've got to link both together. LinkedIn is the most professional site that I think exists, that most people use. Of course, there are others that you can use, but there are even, internationally, you don't have to they don't have to know you. There are sites that you go to and submit your CV. And if they're interested in you, because so many I look for what you call independent directors all over the world, and they feel that you qualify for that purpose, you may just be interviewed and come in. So being part of that online process is very critical. How do you differentiate between being too narrow-minded and having a big picture? Let me put it this way. You must be able to link your narrow picture to the larger picture. And says, look, I want to be number one in this industry. That's the larger picture. There are steps to be taken narrowly to achieve that. And those steps are the steps that management must execute to get there. Now, letting the board understand that we're taking these 3, 4, 5 steps, which will link to this larger picture, shows that they know that you understand the big picture. But if it's just talking about the 4, 5 steps without linking it, they themselves may even be lost because they don't know where that 4, 5 step fits into your life, their larger picture, because the boards is the document you give them that they read through. Some members of the board are very detailed in reviewing those things, and it is useful, but there must always be a link with what they are doing with what the board wants to do. Buki, how do you distinguish between tokenism and real issue? Sometimes it is the way the person talks to you. For some of us, especially those of us who have been in banking, you go marketing, especially if you are a lady, and you realize that it's not so much what you are selling that the person is listening to, is that this lady is selling to me. You know that the engagement is not yet engaged, that you have a brain. That's just a door opener at that point. Sometimes you see it even when you are at the board meeting, the way, no, that's not what we're talking about. As if, look, you lady, keep quiet. You start feeling it in the various ways that, look, we brought you in, yes, it's because we want to bring you in. Don't let that discourage you, because at that point, it is time for you to show that, me too, I have my number. Always board papers, read before. Where you don't understand, call management and ask them questions. By the time you are firing your brain power at that board meeting, from some board members, that paper is when they get to the board that they are now flipping through. They start to look at you and you become a guru. Let me give you a little bit of example, even though it's not directly relevant, but to some extent, listen. I didn't know anything about power industry electricity business or distribution business. I would sometimes make fun that I was blackmailed into taking that job on a lighter note. But I realized that the reason why the board members said I should go was very relevant. And in no time, I became a valuable player, not just for my organization, but for the industry. And this is somebody who is not an engineer. He's just using your brains and being serious. So when at some of those meetings at the initial stage, I was the only CEO that was female, and we're at meetings, all the engineers are talking and they're talking above your head. When you open your mouth and you just throw one, they look at you, you start earning the respect. And over time, that respect is built. At the initial stage is, okay, what do you know? You are not an engineer, not to talk of, you are just a woman. Now in that industry, there are quite a number of, at least in the distribution, on the distribution side, CEOs, and even generation side. One of them is here, who is an ED. So when they see that, okay, there's a woman out there and she seemed to be doing the right thing, why not we give the women a chance? So sometimes it's the tokenism that gets you in because they just, sometimes, let me give you another example. My first board, serious board, and I will tell you, I learned most from that board. I left Citibank to become the chief executive of MBC. And that's Merchant Banking Corporation. This is a bank that was owned by medical doctors, very senior elder statesmen, accomplished Dr. Maje Kudumi in their very own right, board gurus, older than my father. And here I was a young, this thing, when you are young and you are still this thing, you are saying this is the way you want to do it, etc. When I joined their board, they used to quietly have their own private review the day before. They come with their own unruffled stand, what they want to do. I come in, a novice and everything. And when I'm saying this, I just see 1, 2, 3, 4, checkmates. After they've done a few checkmates on me, I learned how to listen. So when you get there, and I'm pretty sure when they took me as a chief executive, as a lady, they didn't feel that, oh, she would disturb them. But I think by the time I was leaving, Dr. Magde had a lot of respect, and the others. And some of them gave me other opportunities in that process. I earned my stride. So tokenism doesn't matter. That wasn't tokenism. I was employed professionally. But I'm sure that given the experience they had, they never would have expected me to be able to be as board savvy as what they taught me. So that's it in terms of this thing. I think I can see Shade, Tari, and Reverend Anuli here. Shade, you want to say something?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Osibodu. It's been honestly a great privilege to have this session with you because I've always admired you from afar. I think for me, my question comes from what we have learned this week. We've had a lot of engagement and on the relationships of mentorship, role modeling, sponsorship, advocacy, and from the questions you've just answered now, in a way you have answered my question, because I wanted to ask if your career, your very successful career, has been that trajectory. Was it enabled at any point by this sponsor? Did you have any mentors that really stood out for you? And particularly for the sponsorship relationship, was this something that you sought out formally in any way at any time? or were you actually sought out? And my final question is, who were your own role models, male or female? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Tari, you have something to say?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for the incredible presentation. I really found that quite insightful. So my question is, you had mentioned something about numbers and numeracy, and I was wondering, are there certain specific trainings or knowledge gaps that would be very good to close before you actually begin to undertake very serious board opportunities? Like maybe numeracy, for example, understanding financial data or something. Are there any specific ones, competence or knowledge gaps that you think really improve one's chances to take up these positions? Thank you.
Okay. And then Analu, Reverend Analu. Is it Reverend?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, madam. Oh, good afternoon, madam, actually. I don't know if you can hear me and if you can see me.
I can, and I can see you.
Okay,
this
great.
Is a very, very funky Reverend. That's why I had to ask.
Thank you so much for that compliment. First of all, thank you so much for your succinct presentation, very insightful. Really appreciate it. I want to find out, is it possible to aspire to be on a board across continents? You know, like serving on a board, say in Nigeria and in another country in, say, North America?
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me start first of all with Shade's question on mentorship, sponsors, and overtime. You know, sometimes maybe, you know, we belong to the old school generation. Even though I do my best to pretend that I'm not old school. By the way, there's one thing I missed. Board processes, especially on boards, you must be ready to banter and be humorous. And sometimes it looks like you are wasting time talking what is irrelevant, but is meant to be less of the harrowing process of a normal, what do you call it, management process. Now, going back to your comment on role model, because I was very much at the very early stage on a very fast track, and partly because opportunities arose, and then I thank God I was able to pick up those opportunities, very often not realizing you are picking those opportunities up. And it's a long story on various things that have happened to me. You often are running even faster than finding a mentor, especially a lady mentor. Because at that point, we didn't have many that were on that track, at least in the banking world. So if anything, more people were looking at me and say, if she can do it, we too can do it. So I wasn't as privileged as you are to have so many people that could give you that chance. But indirectly, it doesn't matter whether it's lady or man. There were people, male and female, that gave me opportunities that I least expected. When I tell people that it was only my first job till now that I ever applied for, and I'm still looking for how to apply for a job at this stage in my life. Most of all, literally after the first job, all were by invitation. And those invitations was because somebody somewhere says that lady is good. And somebody somewhere says that lady is good because you were professionally strong. So if I were to pick some of my greatest mentors, and some of them may not be people you expect that have assisted me on my career, I used to have a boss in Citibank. Hetty will know him. His name was Amakan. We all did not like him. Anybody that worked in UBA might also remember him. He was a Pakistani that was not the easiest person to deal with. And because it was at the early stage of my marriage, I was living in Ikeja. And the man was always asking me for the impossible. I would come in early enough, traffic was terrible, and start my work day even before 8 o'clock. And this man will come in at 11 o'clock. And when he sees me packing my things at 6 p.m. to go and face traffic, that's when he says, come, I want this. I want it first thing in the morning. I used to go home and say, you are the devil sent to me and you will not succeed. But you know what? Today, I still remember him and I thank him for that drilling that he did for me. Why? He forced me to know how to work hard. If I have to work overnight, I work overnight. And it is that hard work, which indirectly instilled in me, that created some of the things that others saw. So I always remember him. There are many bosses that have favored me, but I don't remember them, not because you don't listen, but they have not been as impactful. Another one is the one I mentioned about my position in NBC, being the first place I became a chief executive in. And I would move straight to something is related to what was mentioned, I think, by Shade as well. No, not Shade, Tari. How to create numeracy, or how do you train yourself? Very often, all of us, women, men, we feel there's something missing at the back of, in your background, and you want to go after sorting it out. So when I was in NBC and I had finished I tell people there's nothing wrong being on contract job. I've been on contract job all my life for a long time. After Citibank, everything I've done is contract. When I finished my contract in NBC, even while there, I kept on saying, I don't have MBA. You know, we all like this MBA. I need to go for MBA. My husband will say, without MBA, you are doing well. What are you looking for? But I felt something was missing. So the compromise was I had to disappear for 3 months to go to Harvard. And there I learned so many things, including several of those financial skills, a 3 months program. But you know what? Most of these things is just to satisfy your, how should we call it? Make you feel, yes, I know. You have the attitude, you can learn anything. So there are tons of ways you can learn all this financial stuff. I learned a lot about how you do valuation, etc. You asked me today, I don't use it. I've never used it. But I feel, yes, me too, I know. Finish. And so you feel more confident. So sometimes you just go after whatever you think will give you the confidence. Not necessarily that by the time they teach you this, you already know. But one person that I would say was my role model, somebody who died about a month or 2 ago, Francesca Emmanuel, Mrs. Emmanuel. She was the first PAMSEC. And she came to enhance me from NBC and said, Funke, I want you to come and be CEO of EcoBank. And at that time I said, I'm sorry. Me, I am going to learn all these things that everybody know. Harvard. I am not available. If the job is still there in 3 months' time, because I just felt psychologically I needed to know. I came back and the job was waiting for me. And she was able to guide me through the EcoBank board and the nuances. Till today, she will be, I would say, the only person from that perspective I got mentorship from. So, aspiring to be on international board, very easy. Go online. There are even, there's this outfit called, there's some of them that you can enroll for. Of course, you may have to pay some money, etc. But go online, you will find some of these things. There's one that says, I'll look for the name, theboardlist.com. If you go online and look at it, you will see they do a lot of professional and a lot of top companies are there. And you never know, because they may want to come to Nigeria and say, we need this. Or your background, they look at it and say, this background can be relevant. So in today's world of online, there's a lot of information. So Buki, Adebukola Oladapo, I think you have your hand up, and I think I've covered almost this thing.
Can I just say
I think that should be the last
one.
Yeah.
We have a few questions in the chat box, but we're running out of time. So I don't know if I can just mention them and you can take them along with Adebukola's question.
Okay.
Okay, so
right.
Trish is asking if you could share your most challenging experience on a board and how you have responded to these challenges. Bolale is asking for those of us who have built our career or experience in staff roles versus P&L roles, how do we pivot and showcase our potential and showcase the potential boards that we will be value adding still? And then there is one question around networking and raising your profile, essentially asking how do we start? I'll stop at those three because we are running out of time.
Bukola, your own last question so that I can take it together. Okay.
All right, good afternoon, Ma. And thank you for sharing with us. My question is around, well, when you find out that there are opportunities, right, maybe for an independent director role, and of course, going by what you have told us, that sometimes the board will want to go after people that they have established relationships with. If you find yourself in that scenario, are there tips you can drop for us to help navigate, or probably, like give us an opportunity to put our foot in the door so that we're considered for stuff like that? And then secondly, if someone was to go into maybe be recruited into an organization, into a senior level role, with a potential opportunity to join the board at maybe within a year or so, that would be an executive director role. What would you recommend should be the actions that the person needs to take, to make sure that they up their profile in time for that opportunity? Thank you.
Okay, so let me move quickly. Most challenging experience. I'll tell you that every job I go into is more fire than the previous one. So, and as you climb out of it and you understand it, there's another challenge waiting for you. So at every time you think what you are doing is the most challenging. For instance, entering into the power sector, that's everybody, whole of Nigeria hates you, and you have to prove yourself and still give light, and nobody talks well. It's challenging, but it's also very rewarding in the sense that, and when you want a few people, when you make a difference to somebody's life and you see it, I have a lot of communities we work in our own network. And there are so many communities, some having had light for 10 years, 7 years. And when you give them light and you see the joy, tears, all the challenge and the abusing and the fighting and everything just goes away. So most challenging, I'm still looking for it. It can be rough, but sometimes my husband says that that's what you like. Everything, if there's no pressure on you, you want to create and put fire on. So that's my own story on challenging. You are in staff role. You see, people underestimate that HR is one of the most powerful. I tell people there are 3 positions in an organization that is very powerful. Those three positions are often not very well celebrated because they are not limelight positions. One, HR, because you have to deal with everybody. But if you are smart in HR and you don't turn yourself into an admin person, you take time to understand what each of the units is all about, you become very powerful. I have in my organization, BEDC, the lady, she started as the HR head, Kumbi Labi. She's in charge, still in charge of HR. She's in charge of 2 states. I have state heads. She's in charge of 2 states with the HR, and she has capacity to cope. So that job didn't come, I didn't just throw it on her laps. When the vacancy came, she came, and at that time she was handling HR, corporate affairs, customer service. She said, MD, I want to, me too, I want to be part of this. I said, you are not serious. With all this one you are handling, she said, I can cope. I refused and took part of it off. And I said, I'll try you out. If you can't cope, don't come and this thing, I will just yank it off you. So sometimes when I see her, she's under strain, I said, don't come and complain to me. You are the one that say you can cope, go and cope. But part of it is getting her to realize all these things. After some time, you develop the capacity. So it doesn't matter if you're in line job, you are in non-line job. What matters is your attitude and how you've applied yourself to know what you are doing, because HR is very powerful. The other one I say is very powerful is internal control. In internal control, you have a right to poke your nose into anything. And if you can put your nose as into anything, everybody's nose, you can learn. But if you decide to poke and not learn, you have yourself to blame. The third one is treasury, because the organization treasury also has the right to poke everywhere. Those 3, all the others are restrictive, but those 3, if you apply yourself correctly, the reason why I'm successful is because of my treasury background. I was poking my nose everywhere, because for me to be able to manage the entire cash flow of that organization, I have to know what they are, plus what they want to know, me to know, plus what they don't want me to know. That's on that. Navigate for opportunities. Then recruitment. I'll tell you that networking is the most important. Networking is the most important. In other words, it's not networking as if I'm going to look for a network. Just be a social animal. And social from a corporate perspective. And all those corporates, I go and do cocktail here, I go for this there. They look like chores, but you are building relationships. And those relationships creates, look at all of us talking to each other, it's networking. On the other side, EDs, in other words, how do you position yourself to become an ED with that potential? Make yourself very valuable to your chief executive. Understand what is going on the board. Work as if you are an executive director, not as if you are a management staff. The executive director has to be both a management staff and a board staff. Start elevating yourself knowledge-wise. 90% of the board papers are put together by management. So if you try to understand the content beyond your own and put a beautiful document together, and very often in most boards, they would now ask management, come and present. When you have that opportunity where they say, come and present, you make sure that you shine well. And the rest, again, is network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. It's time to round up. We really don't have time for other questions. As you take your closing remarks in about a minute or 2, I would also like you to consider the very last question that is here, that I will take here from the box from Uzoma, asking which weighs more at the board level, competence or character? Which weighs more at the board level, competence or character? Please take this along with your closing remarks for your session. Thank you very much.
Now, competence or character, very interesting, because both are important. But at the end of the day, character matters more, because competence can be bought, but your attitude and your character cannot be bought. That's the black and white of. You can use your character and your attitude to create the competency. The other way cannot easily happen, or it cannot even happen. So that's the answer on that. So in terms of closing remarks, I had concentrated more on what I would call middle-level senior executives, others who want to be on boards, but not enough concentration on saying anything about entrepreneurs who want to attract people to their board. Because I can tell you that those entrepreneurs among you that want to start formalizing yourself into a proper corporate structure, even if is 100% owned by you, is one of the best things you will be doing. Because what it does is you have others who are your, should I call it, blind sight monitor. Because very often we all believe we know it. But when you all gather together and you have respectable people who want to contribute, you start to learn new things, even though it's your business. So I will encourage you, start that process and then look at it. Again, I want to say thank you. It's been very interactive, very interesting. I'm so happy to see all the faces I'm seeing. And then some of them, Binta, I saw you there. Etty and the others. Thank you. And our chair, well done.
On behalf of WIMBIZ and the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee, I thank you profusely for giving of your valuable time to share your vast experience and insights with us. No doubt, the mentees and indeed Nigeria will be better for this, as I'm confident that we will see a lot more board-ready profiles from our mentees, which will prove irresistible to those looking to appoint board directors. Once again, we say thank you very much for your presentation and for your comments. Thank you and God bless you. At this point, we will take a 5-minute leg stretch to allow everyone to have a brief period of refreshment. Please note that this will be 5 minutes only. 5 minutes only. We will be back at 4:46. Thank you.
And I'm going to hang around to listen to my sister, because me too, I want to improve my brand. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome back. My name is Ngove. I'm the current chair of the Executive Council. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Osibodu, for those amazing nuggets of wisdom. Just a few words about the video that you've just seen. We tried to summarize the activities over the last few months. It's been a very interesting year for WIMBIZ. We've had to pivot very quickly to an online version of all our programs, but it's been very heartwarming to see the response to all our programs, especially this one. So I wanted to say a very good afternoon and thank you to the ladies, as we call them, the pioneer set of the WIMBoard mentee program. So congratulations for coming on board the program. We have a lot of dreams and wishes for you. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So WIMBIZ at our core is really about amplifying women in leadership positions. So making sure that there are many more of us and our voices are heard. And so when we see women looking and seeking themselves to upskill themselves and to enable themselves be better on boards, then we're excited to be able to help. And that's why this program was thought of. And that's why we're running it in the way that it has been structured. And our hope is that as you get on boards, and we're very confident that you will be on boards because you're all phenomenal and awesome, that you will remember that your voices on the board really is to create that diversity. We're hoping that you'll be role models for many other ladies coming behind you, that you will create more seats at the table so that there can be many more of us and we can really make a difference and we can demonstrate the impact and the role that women have in nation building and in moving our country forward. There were a few questions early on about how people can gain some competently. So if you are on the WIMBIZ database, and I encourage you to please do so, and I'm sure they will add you automatically, you will sort of get notifications on programs that we have run. We ran a program on financial literacy not too long ago, and I'm sure that if you contact the Secretariat, they can help you get access to that program. It will certainly help the lady who asked the question about gaining a bit more knowledge around being able to read financials and being able to be financially competent on a board. The other thing I was going to say is in Mr. Osibodu's presentation, she talked about volunteering and she talked about not-for-profit organizations. As you all know, WIMBIZ is not-for-profit, and we do have a big cohort of volunteers. We exist because of the women who participate, who are members, who are associates, and who volunteer. So my ask is please, at the end of this program, for those that are not already part of WIMBIZ, please come onto our database. We would love to have you as members. And more importantly, we'd love to see you volunteering to be part of the committees that run these sort of programs, like the awesome committee that Mrs. Nzego is heading that put together this particular WIMBoard program. And so for me, last words are just please remember that it's about amplifying our voices. It's about creating more seats at the table, and just making sure that we are uplifting other women. So enjoy the rest of your program, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you as we go through the different structures of this. Mr. Dunfa, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ngove. Welcome back. And we proceed quickly to our second mentoring session for today, addressing the very intriguing topic of personal branding for board effectiveness, where we will address the needs and the means to brand yourself as an invaluable board contributor and member. To address this topic will be Mrs. Awuneba Ajumogobia. Please join me to welcome our second mentor for today's program. On this very intriguing topic, Mrs. Ajumogobia is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. She has been qualified as a chartered accountant for 3 decades. She sits on a number of corporate boards, both local and international, including Airtel Africa PLC, which is quoted on the London Stock Exchange, where she sits on the Remuneration and Audit Committees, UPDC PLC and CAP PLC, where she is the chairman of the board. Until recently, she was also an independent non-executive director of UAC of Nigeria PLC, where she chaired the Risk Management Committee and was a member of the Statutory Audit Committee. Mrs. Ajumogobia, has also had advisory and implementation roles with a number of national development projects in Nigeria. She gives her time to a number of research, educational, and social projects, which include her membership on the board of the University of Ibadan Research Foundation, the Musical Society of Nigeria Museum Finance Committee, and also as the chairperson, Governing Council of Grange School, Lagos. She is also a member of the Executive Council of WIMBIZ. Join me to welcome Mrs. Awuneba Ajumogobia. Over to you, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Doyin, for your kind introduction. And thank you for this invitation to share. I'm really, really proud to be in such esteemed company today with such a diverse group of talented women in this session. I must first, however, single out my co-presenter, Mrs. Olufunke Osibodu, who is a role model extraordinaire, who had an amazing career in the boardroom. In many ways, she represents one of the objectives of WIMBIZ/WIMBoard. When she became a respected board member, she didn't have the benefit that we have today of mentoring and training. And she made us proud. And by her example, she helped to keep the door open and left the ladder behind for others to climb. I applaud you, Mrs. Osibodu. I'm delighted today to share my thoughts on the topic, personal branding and board effectiveness. I very much hope that this will be a learning experience for us all as we exchange thoughts and we exchange ideas. Personal branding and board effectiveness. What I intend to do is first talk about personal branding. What is personal branding? What are the attributes of personal branding? Secretariat, would you share my presentation, please? Next slide, please. No. Yes, there, thank you. So what is personal branding? What are the attributes of personal branding? I'll then introduce three women who, in my opinion, have built very strong and very different, very interesting brands. And then next, board effectiveness. What is board effectiveness? What are the attributes of an effective board? And finally, how can personal branding either enhance or diminish board effectiveness? So first, what is personal branding? What is it? So let's have a quick 30-second exercise. At the mention of your name, what do you think instantly comes to mind in other people's thoughts? Can you please type in the chat box? 30 seconds, so it's the very first thing that comes to your mind. Any takers? What is the first thing that comes to your mind or that you think comes to mind of other people instantly at the mention of your name? Thank you, very interesting. I knew we had an amazing group here. A professional, hardworking, effective, delivery, competent, iron lady, I like that. Wow, this is amazing. Please keep them coming. Harsh, now that is honest. So if you already know what would come to the mind of others when you are mentioned, then you have some idea of what you represent as a brand. Everyone needs to develop a personal brand. And in particular, everyone in the boardroom needs to develop a personal brand. A definition of personal branding is the conscious and the intentional effort to create and to influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, by elevating their credibility, and by differentiating themselves from competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. So positioning, elevating credibility, and differentiation are key aspects of personal branding. It is a process. It is intentionally projecting or providing a true image of yourself in the marketplace. It can also be said that personal branding is a way of presenting one's value to the world, a way of showing that one is efficient in their industry and that such a person is unique in their field and that they stand out. Personal branding is not something that can be done in a hurry or in a short period of time. It's a continuous process of developing, of polishing, of maintaining the reputation and the impression of an individual. The process also involves carefully and accurately communicating the values, the beliefs, the goals, and the purpose of such individuals. A personal brand helps stand one out from everyone else and gives the opportunity to show current and future potential clients or stakeholders your skills and your strengths. Next slide, please. Can we skip through this? The next slide. So what are the attributes of a personal brand? I'd say that there are 4. First, authenticity/integrity. So being authentic simply means that you know who you are, what you value, and who you're looking to help. It is what gives your brand substance and makes you relatable to other people. To ensure that you're actually showing up authentically, first, take time to reflect, to define your values, and from that, define your goals and your purpose. And it is absolutely essential that you always follow through on your promises. Strong brands, they do what they say, and they say what they do. They operate with integrity, they're accountable, and they hold others accountable. Strong brands are consistent. A strong personal brand is the same person in private as they are in public. They're dependable and they can be counted on. Strong brands walk the talk. You can count on them to do what they say. And a strong work ethic is also integrity. Strong brands put in the work. We're told that luck is where opportunity meets preparedness. So in this regard, you'll be ready and you'll be available if you put in the work when that opportunity comes. Building trust. Trust underpins a strong personal brand. It's a critical element. And finally, regarding authenticity, a unique selling point, a differentiator. Why me? Strong personal brands have a unique selling point. Next, okay, same slide, sorry. The second attribute of a personal brand is consistency. A number of things must be done consistently. Visibility, consistently deliver value. After a third party has had engagement with you, they should leave better off. Your social engagement, your thought leadership, all of this gives visibility and it should be consistent. Speaker engagements, interviews, knowledge sharing. A second aspect of consistency is focus and purpose. A strong personal brand must have clarity, absolute clarity, regarding why you do what you do. This also drives the consistency with which your voice and your actions align with your values and with your beliefs. Consistent ambition. Strong brands are ambitious. They're always pushing the envelope, always looking ahead. They're future focused, they're innovative, they're open to new ideas, to new relationships. Consistency, consistently expanding horizons beyond your organization and making impact in projects in multiple spheres. So outside of the business place, in your community, in your social setting, in your religious setting, making impact consistently. Consistently in personal impact and making the right impression. Consistently embracing technology. Without technology, we all know what's going to happen. Dinosaurs. Consistency in attitude, being professional at all times. Consistency in appearance. Research has shown that you get one chance to make a first impression, 3 seconds. So you get a chance to do that only once. So you must define your brand in terms of your appearance in advance and show up consistently, reflecting that choice. And while you do that, you must be appropriate for all occasions and always, always respectful of culture. Style is personal, but the things our parents taught us never go out of style. Grooming is non-negotiable. And regarding appearance and styling, if you need advice, seek it. The third attribute of a personal brand is a point of view. The best way to amplify your message and set yourself apart is by having a unique point of view. Developing a point of view allows you to get in front of the right audience and make more of an impact. Part of developing a unique point of view is being unapologetic about your opinion, contrarian style, if need be. And it's important to understand too that when you develop a strong point of view, that it draws people in and you will inevitably alienate others. Learn how to tune out the critics and stay focused on your core message. And finally, don't forget that your personal brand is more than just you. It's also about the connections you build with other people. That's why it's a common point that your network determines your net worth. The key to building a strong network is to focus on building relationships with people who can make a difference in your career. Always try to create win-win situations and focus on giving more than you receive. One of the best ways to connect with like-minded people is actually to start your own networking group. You can do this by setting up a LinkedIn group or scheduling an in-person networking meetings, well, now virtual networking meetings. By leading your own group, you automatically set yourself up as a person of authority. A point of view, presentation, and communicating with impact. How you interact with others is an important part of your brand. And final attribute of a personal brand that we'll talk about today is expertise. Pick a specific niche and build expertise in that area. Strong personal brands are respected for their expertise and for their point of view. They're engaged and they're involved. Value proposition, understand your value and deliver that value consistently. Ask what you bring to the table. And you can ask yourself in the boardroom, are you consulted by other board members for expertise outside of board meetings? Are you considered to be a subject matter expert? If you are, then you're clearly adding value. If you're not, then perhaps you could reflect on areas where you could deepen your skills and your knowledge. Expertise, increase your value by education. In the boardroom, enhance the quality of conversation by shaping convincing arguments and being concise. This may require work because some people are naturally concise, but it's a skill that can be learned. Strong personal brands are also very aware of their strengths, but more importantly, they're aware of their limitations and they take action to address them. Continuous learning, continuous growth must be in the DNA of a strong personal brand. They know that if they're not learning and if they're not growing, they aren't actually standing still. They're falling behind. Next slide, please. So we've talked about branding, and I'd like us to look at these three women who, in my opinion, have built strong brands. The first person is Indra Nooyi, and you may ask why her when we have people like Olufunke Osibodu here. And the reason why I would say her is to demonstrate that there's nothing special about her. The sky is the limit. This could be anyone in this room. She started her education at Madras Christian College. So Indra Nooyi, her most recent role, she was former chairman and chief executive officer of PepsiCo. Indra is an Indian-American businesswoman, and she's made a name for herself from her experiences in several industries in various capacities. She started her career as a product manager at Mature Burshell Limited, and she's worked in several multinational corporations. Indra's schooling includes a bachelor's degree in physics, chemistry, and mathematics, note STEM, from Madras Christian College, a postgraduate diploma in management from Indian Institute of Management in Calcutta, and a master's degree in public and private management from Yale University. Her current board memberships include Schlumberger Limited. She's been a director since 2015. Amazon, she's on the board audit committee from February 2019 to date. And an NGO, International Cricket Council.
One company, the wife has a spa and all that. Sometimes these things, I'm telling you.
Could we have the mics, please? And this goes to the conversation about NGOs. We all know that Indians are very passionate about cricket, and she's on the board of the International Cricket Council, the first female independent director from June of 2018 to date. The industries that she's worked in are varied. beverages and food processing, PepsiCo, where she was chairman and she was previously CFO and multiple other roles. In power and automations technology, she was at ABB, senior vice president. Telecommunications, Motorola. Management consulting, Boston Consulting Group. She was an international corporate strategist. Pharmaceuticals, Johnson & Johnson, where she was product manager. And infrastructure, Betu Beard Shell, where she was product manager. So what are the hallmarks of Indra's brand? For Indra, the hallmarks of her personal brand include leadership, include gender equality, and humanity, amongst others. Her leadership principles were featured in David Rubenstein's recent book, which was titled How to Lead. Indra is an avid reader. She regularly provides her thought leadership, and her reviews on books, articles, etc. She's received lots of awards, honorary degrees from high-ranking, prestigious universities. So in terms of positioning, visibility, which we talked about earlier, her speaking engagement and her personal branding, her past roles, especially in her immediate past role as in PepsiCo, positioned her as a thoughtful and a well-spoken leader. Her words, you can never overinvest in communication skills, in written and oral communication skills. Indra takes up several speaking engagements, and her oratory and written skills are said to be top-notch. These have helped her to build visibility in her industry and beyond, and have cemented her branding. So in terms of her personal stories, for Indra, the motivation to be successful and strive for the best has been deeply rooted since she was little. Her mother played a significant role and would ask her daughters to give speeches. She would pretend to be prime minister, president, or chief minister from the time she was a young girl. Today, she's led PepsiCo for 12 years, and her sister is a Grammy-nominated musician. All of this has shaped Indra's career, and she's regarded as one of the top C-suite level executives in the USA and in the world. One key message that I take away from Indra is that women can't have it all without support. The second person is Bozoma St. John. Can we have the slide, please? So Bozoma is interesting. She's Ghanaian American. She graduated in English, and she served in multiple roles in leading companies such as Apple, iTunes, Beats, PepsiCo, Uber. And she revolutionized the way marketing and branding is perceived in these industries. She's on a number of boards, and she's worked in multiple industries as well, in technology, in talents, in beverages, in fashion, ride hailing. But what are the hallmarks of her brand? Her sense of style and her unique corporate image has been consistent and unapologetic. She has successfully leveraged her multifaceted talents as both a creative and a professional. Her career has been marked by induction into multiple halls of fame and several awards. So in terms of her positioning, visibility, speaking engagement, and her personal branding, one thing that's consistent in her career progression is the quality of roles she's taken on. She's taken on public speaking, which has greatly contributed to her visibility and her success. In addition, she currently runs, as somebody has put in the chat, the Badass Workshop, which seeks to educate working professionals based on her work and her personal experiences, and to empower them to be their greatest selves. Her career story has been used as a case study in the 2020 spring semester of Harvard Business School. And she appeared as a guest lecturer for Harvard's MBA students. Finally, on a personal level, she's spoken openly about her late husband's battle with cancer, who also sadly passed away, and the impact this has made in fueling her drive and her purpose. Her personal story summarized, be loud as hell. That's her brand. Very different from Indra's. Our very own Ibukun Awoshika. Current, most recent role, Chairman, First Bank. I won't even begin to read all her distinguished accolades. We'll be here until tomorrow. But what, in my opinion, are the hallmarks of Ibukun's personal brand? Entrepreneurship. She's passionate about entrepreneurship, about gender equality, about mentorship. And she uses her platform not only to bring light to the issues associated with these areas, but she also does a lot of work to make these things better. Her faith and her business. She's been very vocal about the role her faith in her business and her career success. Female empowerment, consistency, and values. Her work highlights grit and consistency, and capacity building, mentoring. So in terms of her visibility, speaking engagements, etc., she's built a personal brand outside of her career by developing her areas of interest. What would I say summarizes Ibukun's personal story? Don't be afraid of tough decisions. So we've talked about branding, and we've looked at 3 individuals from different industries with very different brands. Our topic today is personal branding and board effectiveness. So what exactly is board effectiveness? Board effectiveness is the ability of a board to achieve its set goals and objectives and to follow through with a strategic framework. The IMD says that there are 4 major factors. Could you move the slide, please? That contribute to board effectiveness. People, information architecture, structures and processes, and group dynamics. So in terms of people, people is very broad, the first aspect of board effectiveness. So people, their quality, focus, and dedication. First, integrity, probity, and high ethical standards. Secondly, sound judgment. Third, objectivity. Fourth, strong interpersonal skills. Mrs. Osibodu touched on this as well. The second attribute of board effectiveness is the information architecture. This has to do with how internal and external information is passed across the board in a timely and strategic manner. The board should be able to use it to discharge its duties effectively. And the third attribute, structures and processes. This ensures that the structures for effective oversight are in place, such as there ought to be a formal, a rigorous, and a transparent procedure for the appointment of new directors. The board should undertake formal and rigorous evaluations, and the re-election process should be at regular intervals and transparent. And finally, group dynamics. Effective boards must have healthy group dynamics, interaction within the board and with senior management and board culture. The size of the board is key. If it's too large, meetings can be protracted, cabals could form. And if it's too small, you may have a dearth of the necessary talent. And finally, in terms of group dynamics, it's important to have the board working together effectively as a group. It's important to understand that a board shouldn't be a team, because at all costs, you must eliminate groupthink. But there should be sufficient cohesion for a healthy board dynamic. So finding the right balance is what is key. Could you go to the next slide, please? These are the qualities of an effective board member. You can read this, but move to the next slide in the interest of time, please. Next slide, please. Can you move to the next slide, please? Next slide. Yes. So what is our topic today? Our topic today, please move to the slide before, is personal branding and board effectiveness. So the question is, how can personal branding enhance board effectiveness? If you look at the column on the left, those are the attributes that we talked about earlier of board effectiveness. And if you look at the column on the right, the attributes of a strong personal brand. And as you can see from the arrows, all elements of a strong personal brand have the potential to enhance board effectiveness. So authenticity and integrity. If you look to the left, that should bring integrity and sound judgment to the boardroom. Consistency should speak to updating and refreshing skills of board members on an ongoing basis. Expertise, that speaks to understanding and analyzing information with rigor. And finally, points of view, to ensure that there's independence of thought and constructive debate. So together, these should result in increased trust on the board, improved output quality, and improved organization visibility, and positions the organization for opportunities in the future. So the question is, can a brand, personal brand, diminish the board effectiveness? And if we go to the slide before, a brief case study of a gentleman called Travis Kalanick, who was the CEO of Uber. He resigned from his role, and his resignation stemmed from scandals revolving around cases of sexual harassment and misconduct, as well as a ruthless way of leading. Investigations by the regulatory authorities led to reports of condolence of bad behavior by the firm. As a result, senior executives, including board members, resigned. Uber had to pay 4.4 million in fines, and the CEO, as said earlier, resigned. This goes to show the importance of building a positive brand. So there is no alternative. We must all build positive brands with intentionality. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very enlightening presentation and excellent delivery, addressing so many vital aspects in such a short time. No doubt our mentees were scribing along as I was, and we would have several questions to drill into the nuggets that you have shared, given the constraints of time. I think it's so interesting the way that you were able to lay out the various attributes for personal branding. You listed them and then you cross-referenced them very interestingly with what board effectiveness really is. It's also very interesting the way you outlined and showed us the profiles of 3 women with very strong yet very, very different profiles. And then you juxtaposed that against the ex-CEO of Uber and how he did such a poor job of personal branding and how it affected his organization and his career. So we'll go very quickly to the questions. I can see that from the last session that we had, the Q&A box functionality is actually not turned on right now. So if you want to ask questions, you can do one of 2 things: raise your hand using the Zoom platform functionality, or write your question in the chat box. So the floor is open for questions now. Please go ahead and raise your hands or put your questions in the chat box. Somebody is asking if we're going to get copies of the presentation. I'm sure that you will get all those copies because there was a lot in the presentation that you were not able to go through. So I'm sure that people are looking.
Yes, you gave me a polite nudge.
We have such a short time, to share so much. Very, very rich. Thank you. So yes, you will get the copies of the presentation. Let's have your questions now, please. Your questions. Okay, I can see one hand raised up. Okay, we've got 2 hands. How would you like to address the questions? Do you want to do them in batches?
Yes, I think I'll do them in batches. It's efficient to do it that way.
All right, so perhaps we can go ahead with Olajumoke and Grace. So we can, yes, Olajumoke, thank you.
Can you see me? Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, Mrs. Ajumogobia. Thank you so much for that excellent presentation. Specifically, let me go into my question. I would like to ask, I'm very glad that you picked the 3 different women that you selected, very inspirational, 3 of them. I'm specifically asking about Bosoma St. John. I'm a huge fan of hers. I actually attended her Badass workshop when it was up in August. Do you think Nigeria and Africa in general is ready for that kind of personality? I study marketing as well, so I find her personality and her trajectory very inspiring. So do you think that kind of badass personality would be good for a boardroom in Nigeria? And at what point will we be ready to reach there? And how does one tone it down if they need to? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to Grace. Grace, can you please ask your question?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ajumogobia, for such a wonderful presentation. My question is also about the 3 women that you showcased. One thing I noticed about the 3 of them that was common about the 3 of them is the fact that they spend a lot of time giving speaking engagements. So my question is, not everybody has the opportunity to speak or to be invited for a speaking engagement. And so sometimes they may not be able to practice this communication ability. How would you advise that every one of us, because it's something that's clearly very important, how would you recommend that every one of us acquire that communication skill, if not through speaking engagement? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a chance for one more. then you can answer them.
Yes.
Question. All right. So can we have Cecilia? Please go ahead and ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. And I wanted to find out, oh, start my video. My apologies. Great. So,
hello, Cecilia.
Hello, lovely to see you again and fantastic presentation once again. I wanted to find out, when you're balancing your personal brand, how do you ensure that you don't overshadow the brand of your employer? And so your employer is drawing value from you, but it doesn't become that your employer is just a stepping stone for you to showcase yourself. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, could you just repeat your question? Is your question asking, whether, is it about subsuming your brand under the employer's brand, or projecting your
really,
brand?
So that balance between, as you project your brand, how do you do it in a way that you don't make it appear that your employer is just a platform for you to project yourself? So it's about you, but not about your employer.
Got you.
Thank you.
All right, should I take those three?
Yes, please, go ahead with it.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thanks, Jumoke. Excellent question. A number of years ago, I worked in an organization that was very conservative. And I remember at the time that a young lady came for an interview. And the organization had a very, very strict dress code. And this lady, this was years ago, she had dreadlocks, and dreadlocks were not a thing. And so there was a conversation about this woman was just absolutely outstanding. Should an exception be made for her? And guess what? The exception was made, and she was an outstanding employee. So I think that if you have a strong brand that is, that runs against the grain of, that's not mainstream, I think competence is your key. Everybody respects competence. So if you want that, I think that is a way for opening the door. And the other day I was just looking out of my window and I was seeing the number of young men who had braids and dreadlocks. I think Nigeria is probably ready for a lot more than we realize. So thanks, that's the first question. The second question, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. You were talking about speaking engagements. I believe, Rose, I believe that we all have a voice and we all have a platform. And that platform could be your children's Sunday school. It could be a brown bag lunch at work. You could decide to set up a platform of your own. It could also be something that could have more lasting impact. So you could be a thought leader on LinkedIn, especially these days with technology. There are multiple opportunities. And you could find, I think LinkedIn is a great one, because if you are speaking to issues that people are interested in, you may find that you can get opportunities that way. But I would say create your own platform. And Cecilia, regarding the balancing of the brand of the employer with your own personal brand, this is my personal view. I think that you owe it to yourself to do what you think is best for yourself. And as long as you do that with integrity, I think that you will choose the right employer whose brand and whose values align with yours. And I think, therefore, that there is less likely to be a risk of your brand projection being a threat to theirs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have Bolanle's hand up and Funke's hand up, and then we will go to the chat box and take some questions from there. So
all right, thank you.
Please unmute. Bolanle, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everyone. So I would like to know, how do you cross correct when the brand you're looking to portray is not landing properly? So we hear of women who are Margaret Thatcher, Iron Lady, some are described as mean, and I'm sure that wasn't what they set out to do, right? They were hoping to be firm and disciplined. So how do you ensure that what you're trying to portray is what lands with the public?
Thank you. I can see a hand up from top. Yes.
Yes, from top, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ajumogobia, for such a great, just insightful session. I just wanted to find out, you mentioned something just now about creating your own platform. I've seen instances of people who actually have created their own websites to create their own brand. And then I've also seen instances of people who have actually hired private coaches, career coaches. Is this something that you would recommend for anybody who really wants to take this very seriously? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes,
should I take those two?
You can take those two, then we'll go to the chat box.
All right, thanks. All right. So thank you, Bolanle, for that question. I think that's a very, very interesting question. And I think that if you are acting with integrity and you are authentic, you're seeking to add value to the people that you engage with. And I think one of the important aspects of integrity is the ability to reflect and seek feedback. So it might be possible that there might be some things that need to be done differently. And in which case, I think if you go to trusted people, seek the feedback, and if it is honest, and if you agree with it, and if it aligns with your values, then I think it's integrity to self-correct. But I think that it is wrong to change on account of something that does not align with your values. I think it's all about integrity. I hope that answers your question. And Funto, yes, creating platforms, continuous learning, it's a process. We said personal branding is actually a process. It's not a destination. So absolutely, I think that that is fantastic. Anyone who is seeking to get professional support to be the best version of themselves, good to them.
So we'll go quickly to the chat box. There's a question here. I lost it again. Okay, there's one question here from someone who's asking how you would equate etiquette to building a personal brand and what kind of training programs you would recommend towards this.
So how you would equate
etiquette in a personal brand. Yes, there's a second one. And Sada says, how will an introvert be able to step up without being in an excessively uncomfortable situation? Or must one sacrifice that key character? Are there successful, well-branded, well-known introverts who excel through different executive positions and boards? Those are the two questions.
Okay, thank you. First one, my understanding of etiquette is good manners, it's respect for culture. And I think good etiquette can only enhance your personal brand. So I guess short answer to that question. An introvert, can an introvert excel? I think all of us are born with a natural inclination. And sometimes that natural inclination can project you towards your aspirations, or it can hold you back from your aspirations. And so if it is a person who is introverted and their aspiration requires them to step out in a way that they're not comfortable, I would say do it afraid. Take baby steps. Get a friend to support. And you often find that there was really nothing to be concerned about. And sometimes you find when people, I'm trying to remember a number of people who are really, who have very big personalities, who say that they're actually introverts, and you're looking at them and you're wondering, I don't understand. It's clear that they have taken that step and they've done it afraid. So I would say do it afraid, but do it afraid in a safe way. Don't jump off the cliff, please.
Thank you very much. Whilst we're waiting for more questions to come on, either through raising hands or on the chat box, it's important that we just bring up again some of the key aspects of your presentation that I couldn't speak to because we're running out of time. You talked about the need for deliberate positioning, elevating credibility and differentiation. You said that everyone on the boardroom needs to develop a personal brand, and that it is indeed a way of showing your value to the world. It takes time, it doesn't happen overnight, and it requires intentionality. The attributes that you outlined included being authentic, consistent, having a unique point of view, and a rich network, and then, deep expertise, picking a niche, and having a DNA of continuous learning and growth. You challenged us to set up our own networking group. You reminded us of some of the attributes of the three women that you outlined. Indira, who said that you can never overinvest in communication skills and that women can't have it all without support. That was your own learning from her. And Bosman, who's unapologetic about her sense of style, creativity, and professionalism, who has a completely different outlook and says be loud as hell. Mrs. Awushika's stands on not being afraid to take tough decisions. There's a question here from Yinka who says, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? If you're put on a board where you don't have the expertise, so how do you deal with that peculiar situation? I'll let you take
Okay, is there another one? Should I take that? Should I take that?
Isabella has just asked, could you give some real life examples of how successful people have differentiated themselves?
Okay, that requires some thought. So I'll take the one on imposter syndrome. So I'm imagining that this is somebody who has joined a board and is feeling somewhat disconnected and somewhat uncomfortable on the board. And sometimes it could be coming from within, and sometimes it could be passive aggression from the men in the room, if it's actually a board where there are men. I would say competence is the answer. So read, study your board papers, understand the industry, have something to say every time. And with time, you'll discover that it actually is not rocket science. There's a framework for understanding everything that goes on in the boardroom to be effective. And if you invest in being ready and being prepared, you'll find that with time you become more comfortable. And if there is passive aggression in the room, one way might be to just a friendly comment to the person who's sitting beside you. Just disarm them about nothing. And after a while, you may discover that you've made independent links with multiple people. It takes wisdom, and it's not very easy. But it can be done, and it must be done.
Thank you very much. Buki is asking, she's taking a quote from what you said, pick a niche and develop expertise around it. Her question is, if you've had a few areas of expertise, how do you narrow down to one?
Well, who says it has to be one niche? Okay, sorry, I should answer the question. Carry on.
No, I wanted to give you 2 questions to deal with at the same time.
Yeah.
So the second question is, I'll just read out her question. It says, often a lady with these sort of skills in boardrooms are considered bitches, for lack of a better word. Men for the same qualities are called leaders. How does one navigate this, especially structured corporate environments? How do we navigate that interpretation between how men are perceived and how women are perceived? I'll let you answer this.
Yes, okay, thanks. The first question was, what was the first question? Please remind me.
Yes, I will. The question was around picking a niche. So Buki says she has a few areas of expertise. How do you narrow down to one?
Yes. Well, I think that if you have multiple areas of expertise, that's a great thing. Any board that you sat on would benefit from the breadth that you bring to the table. So I think that in itself could be a part of your brand, that you are multidimensional. If you do decide that you want to narrow down on one, you don't have to completely abandon the others. You can have perhaps a superficial interest in whether it's industries or, subject matters, etc., and then hone in on something that you think is perhaps market relevant. So say, for example, you have, one of your areas is Latin and another one is technology. I would say retain, sort of superficial interest in Latin. Do that at the weekends, but focus on technology, because technology is going to take you much further than Latin will today. So that's that. So that's that question. The other question was regarding.
Yes, how women and men are perceived, even with.
Yes, how women. There again, I personally am a big fan of self-reflection. So seeking feedback and trying to figure out, is there any truth in that feedback? And if there isn't, I think the most important thing there again is competence. Competence. And you can go in, there's absolutely, even if you are met with aggression, you don't have to respond with aggression. You can respond with decorum, but with depth. And after a while, you will get respected. And a lot of the time, those people, as Mrs. Osibodu said, may not have given it the amount of time that you have. So at the end of the day, I think it's just being your best self. And interpersonal skills. I think you should, there are very few people who don't respond to, reaching out. There are few people. So I think it's also wisdom, emotional intelligence.
Thank you very much.
There was a question from Bella that I haven't answered. And I think yes. So I think her question was examples of people who have succeeded in spite of.
Successful people who have differentiated themselves.
I think that today we had a fantastic example of that, Mrs. Funke Osibodu. She started off in banking and she has done multiple things, and she's pivoted to be an expert in the power industry. So what better example than that?
Indeed, and I think the 3 case studies that you shared with us also are very good examples. Very good examples. All right, do we have any other questions? Please raise your hand, put your question in the chat box. We just have another couple of minutes to take advantage of this opportunity. So please ask your questions. Please ask your questions, remembering that the presentation showed us what board effectiveness really is all about. The 4 factors that were pointed out: people, the need to have a high quality selection of people, the need for focus, the need for determination and dedication, and then what she called information architecture, the flow of information in a timely and strategic manner amongst the board members, structure and processes, the effective oversights that have to be in place, and then of course, group dynamics, board culture and interaction. You know, and then we remember how she brought these factors together and juxtapose them, cross-reference them with the attributes of building a strong personal brand. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'll give you a few minutes to give your closing remarks at this point, and then we would take it from there. Thank you so much.
So first of all, I'd like to say thank you. I've really enjoyed being here this afternoon, and well done to WIMBoard for setting this up. I think as women, we have the education, we have the skills, we have the talents to excel in the corporate world. We need to every single one of us, position ourselves by acquiring the networks, acquiring the communication skills, and based on the confidence that gives us, be ready to take whatever opportunities come with boldness. But I think the most important thing is integrity, to be yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So be yourself, have integrity, be authentic. On that note, I'd really like to thank you most profusely for taking of your time, your very valuable time. We express our profound appreciation on behalf of WIMBIZ and the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee for taking time out of this, your very busy schedule, to share your vast experience and knowledge with us. No doubt, all the mentees on the call, and indeed Nigeria, will be better off for it. For as we improve board effectiveness through more intentional personal branding, we then therefore create a huge clamor for women on board. So the story will change. Thank you very much once again. God bless you.
Thank you.
At this point, I would like to hand over to Hetty Obo, who is a member of the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee, to say the closing remarks for this program. Hetty, over to you.
Okay. Well, I need to be, my video needs to start. Can the Secretariat help me with that? Right. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Thank you. It's been a wonderful time today. The speakers, sorry, I have to start my video. Right, thanks. The speakers have done a great job. My name is Mrs. Hetty Ubo, and I'm a member of the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee. So before I give the closing remarks and take the announcements, can I ask everyone to please put on their videos for 5 minutes so that the communication team will take everyone's photograph. So please put on your videos, please, so that we can have like a group photograph virtually. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, in my video. I hope everybody's video is on now. Just give us.
Not yet.
Please, all videos on. All. You can
Not
do it.
Yet.
We want to see your faces. And
I
just
don't
give
have
us 5
The
minutes.
host has stopped my video. That's the message I'm getting.
Adedoyin, please.
Yeah. Please, can you tag us?
Can we all try again?
Okay, now.
So for those that your videos are not
mine is still not coming on.
My video is still not on.
Mine is also saying the host has stopped it from.
So you can log out and then.
Oh, okay.
That's how it worked.
Okay.
For
Allow Zoom to access your camera.
okay
now.
We're asking you to start your videos. Click on.
Videos not sound.
Video is not starting. My video is not starting.
Log out.
Log out and log back in. Oh dear.
Adedoyin on.
Nancy, you have to give us time. If I have to log out.
We're doing that now. We're asking you
Please
to.
help them.
Okay.
Yes, we're doing that.
I don't know how. My video is not showing. What's going on?
Please, if your video is not showing, just put it on the chat box. Let them identify who is speaking. You know, we're many here, so that we just put your name so that they will trace you and just work that for you. We'll give you another minute or so. We just need to take a quick picture for social media, please.
Awesome.
Is there anybody still having video challenge?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
my video is not starting.
Box, please put your
screen background and fit stay now. Make the video show.
Please just put your name on the chat box, please.
I want a clear background.
Okay.
My face is safe.
We have only 40 more seconds, and I'm not seeing any name in the chat box.
Right. Technology.
Video.
Adedoyin, can we open everybody's video? Is there a way you can help them do it quickly?
Everyone's video is open.
Ladies, please, you need to click the video icon yourself.
So you'll be prompted by the host to start your video. You need to click on it.
We've done that for everybody. So you need to click.
That's been done. Still not coming up.
Adedoyin, please send it again.
I want fine background.
If that doesn't work, just log
My
out.
video is not showing. I don't know.
Listen, if it doesn't work, this is the problem. If it doesn't work, just log out and log back in. That was what worked for me.
Some people don't want to be seen. Thank you, Ramat, for the feedback.
Taking this Zoom picture is like posing on offline.
Oh God.
Okay, can we all try now?
Not working.
Okay, we're going to go ahead. At least some names are showing. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, let's go ahead. Communications, just maintain your pose, ladies, for the next 1 minute, because you wouldn't know when they're snapping your frame.
I don't even hear what she said.
Wow, what has happened?
Almost finished, just be patient. Adedoyin, our smiles have expired.
So sorry, ma.
Okay, Adedoyin, are we done?
Yes, we are good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Somebody's asking if she can blink.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much
for your time. And I will say that the session has been very remarkable, very informative and well articulated. And indeed, we're grateful to our mentors who did justice to the subject matters discussed. For me, my major takeaway from the discussion on building a board-ready profile by Mrs. Olufunke Osibodu was, branding your substance sooner than later. Well, that branding without substance sooner than later will fall flat, which I think is very apt. You need to actually build substance. And then she talked about networking and volunteering. Those are the things that resonated with me. Now, on the personal branding for board effectiveness by Mrs. Ajumogobia, what drew me was consistency, having to deliver value, talked about thought leadership, embracing technology. And then she made a point that actually stood out for me, and that was you having your viewpoint or your unique point of view, tune out critics and stay focused on your core messages. I actually took copious notes, and again, I will say thank you to our distinguished mentors for a job well done. I would like to thank the Board of Trustees and Executive Council of WIMBIZ for their support. Of course, Ngove Yembe Wakwo, the Chairperson, Executive Council, WIMBIZ, came to welcome the mentees. Thank you for your support. Now, to the WIMBIZ WIMBoard mentees.
Hetty? Did we lose her? Hetty? Hetty? I think we might have lost her. I think we might have lost her. And
she's trying to log back on.
Okay, we'll give her another couple of minutes as she gives her closing remarks.
Okay, I think she's just having some challenges signing in. So, Ms. Odunfa, maybe you just round up for us on her behalf.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. So She was basically going on to talk about the WIMBoard Mentoring Committee, of which I'm a member, vice chair, and Ngozi is the chairperson of this committee. We have members of the committee who are also on the call. Would like to thank all members of the committee for all the hard work that they've all done towards putting together this program, which we believe is rich and varied and which we believe will be beneficial to all the mentees. And for our mentees, all of you who have joined on this program, we thank you for your time, for your input, for your questions, for your comments, for your insights. I believe that every one of you would have learned something that would definitely contribute invaluably towards your march to either the boardroom or to enhancing your impact in the boardroom if you're there already. There was something that Mrs. Ajumogobia said when she was referring to Mrs. Osibodu's comments that stuck with me. She talks about leaving the door open and leaving the ladder in place. And as we go on our pursuits as board members, as directors, let's make sure that all that we do in the boardroom leaves the door open for other women to be able to have the opportunity, and that we build a ladder that will also help others in their journey towards making an impact, making a difference, adding value to the boardroom. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to the next program, which is next week. In the meantime, please take your time to review all that has been learned today, put it into practice. That's the most important thing. When we all sign off, please write your action plan. What are you going to do differently as a result of this program today? Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Great
Thank you.
session.
Bye, everyone. Well done.
Thank you to the organizers. Bye. What is the
Bye.
Thank you very much. Excellent session.
Okay, exit. So now my eye don't ground. Bro, how now?